All right,
Everyone ready?
let's do it.
Mark, you mentioned briefly Mark Few, I think last week on the podium. I know you had a lot of meetings with him when you were in the conference there. Just did you get to know him very well, and what was it like trying to prepare against his team?
Yeah, I've got to know Coach pretty well. He's been a great friend. He's one of the best people in the business. He's just a special person. I'll never forget my first head coaching job at Utah Valley. We did a bye game at Gonzaga, and I had known Coach as an assistant, and so we went up there to play, and we were kind of in the game, and then it got away from us like you would expect it would at the end, and so we're there, and you're just early in your coaching career, and so you're trying to collect yourself in the locker room after the meeting, after everything, and I finally walked out of the locker room, and Coach Few, there's nobody left in the building, and Coach Few was just waiting out there to talk, and that's just who he is, man. He's really special, and what he's done in basketball has just been almost unfathomable, and I love him. So he puts together incredible teams, incredible product every single year. He's so good. He's got a really distinctive style. They know exactly who they are. You could almost take the names off the jerseys, and you would know if you're watching a Gonzaga team by the way they play, schematically, and approach to the game, and they win. So it's going to be an epic adventure.
During the telecast the other night, they said Clemson and Gonzaga are similar. Do you agree with that? And if so, how?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think Brad and Few have got to be friends. They got to be comparing notes, right? There's some things different. Gonzaga plays way faster, but in terms of their post play, it's really, really similar in terms of exploiting point to post, high-low post, side ball screen, away from the ball ducks, getting cross screen action to get post play. They're very, very similar with usage. In fact, I think we talked about this before. I haven't checked the numbers since before our game, but before our game, Clemson had the sixth highest percentage post usage, and Gonzaga was at number 3. And so that facet of the game is very similar between the two teams.
Mark, you've talked about some of the on-court dynamics in terms of the Gonzaga game, but off the court, obviously playing in Seattle, going back to your home. In terms of, I guess, family and friends who may be making the trip, what are you expecting from that, and also just the occasion of going back to the place where this all began for you?
Yeah, anytime I don't get to go back to Seattle that much, so I'm excited to go back. I'll see a bunch of high school teammates I think are coming to the game, and get a chance to sit with Coach Belcher, who I love so much, and excited to see him. And my parents don't live in Seattle anymore, but a bunch of my siblings do. I'll get to see them, be at the game. Seattle's a great city, and I have a ton of love for it, and so I'm excited to get back.
How much did Coach Belcher, the way he approached his players, have an impact on the way you approach yours? It seems pretty similar.
Well, I wish I could be as good as him. Coach Belcher really special. He had this. He was our basketball coach, but it seemed like he controlled our entire life. He made a high school basketball program kind of. He built it so it was such a big construct that it kind of occupied every second of your day, and things on the court and off the court and all around the court. And he was a basketball coach for sure. He's a Hall of Fame basketball coach, but he was at his heart, he was a teacher. Actually, that's probably not even right. He was a mentor. He was a father figure. He was a guru, like a Yoda, right? I mean, he just is He's really special that way. He was an unbelievable listener in terms of like getting to know individual players and then coaching. He didn't coach players. He coached a player. He coached this player and he coached that player and he coached every single guy individually in a really special way. I love him. Like he's really special person. He's been great to me, great to my family, great to my parents. He's really special.
Mark, Lamont obviously got a little banged up in the second half. How is he doing? And also, it looks like his offensive game's kind of gone to another level this season. How impressed have you been with him, especially, I think, plus 17 in just 19 minutes the other night?
Yeah, his numbers are unbelievable. I'm super proud of him. He's for a fifth-year guy, he's been really willing to grow and kind of adopt some things for us and try some new things. And the numbers progress he's made in the first 8 games is incredible. He was, his first 4 years of college, he never shot over 48%, I believe, from 2, and he's at 65% right now. And his assist to turnover ratio is through the charts. And he's really made incredible strides. He's been super humble and super curious and super willing to learn. And he's kind of picking things up really well. His ankle's a little bit of an issue, but we'll see. We're super hopeful that we'll get him back. Brandon Wells' job depends on it. I'm kidding, Brandon Wells.
You mentioned all the ways that Gonzaga will try and get their post-ups. Is it any different than how Clemson went about it? And what have you seen on film?
Well, the one thing the Zags do a lot, so, we talked about high-low, we talked about point-to-post, we talked about cross screens, we talked about weak-side ducks, offside ball screens, but the one thing the Zags have always done also on top of that is they'll do a lot of roasting. They'll just actually run a ball screen just to get a post catch. And so it's kind of like, even if they don't get the switch, even if it's not a roast, just run the ball screen, let them roll, and we'll stay on the same side, and we'll enter it from the same side. And that's kind of been a hallmark of Huey, is just a way where he feels really comfortable. Post entry is complicated sometimes, and he feels really comfortable being able to establish that. So that would be the only thing that is a little bit unique to them schematically in terms of how they get post entries, but they pretty much do it all to work the ball to post. But listen, they can beat you in transition. They can beat you from the 3-point line. They have 3 incredibly explosive guards that are getting a ton of work done right now. They're a dangerous team. I mean, this Nembhard is he's a 10.3 to 1 right now. Did 10.3 assists a game, and I think he's at 10 to 1 assist to turnover ratio. That's ridiculous. Those numbers are crazy. And so they're really potent. Battle's playing super aggressive. I know that the BBN is really familiar with him, and Hickman is a terrific player, and they got some young kids off the bench that are really good. I don't know what they're ranked right now, but it's a top, it's a Final Four type team.
Mark, does it make it a little bit easier to prepare for them, just that you have so much familiarity with Mark and how they operate, or no?
Maybe I just got a lot of PTSD. We'll see how that works. It's probably both, right? I'm really familiar with them. Coach is really familiar with me and the way that we try and approach the game. And we've had some epic battles, and he's come out on the winning side of too many of those. So hopefully we'll start to even that out a little bit. But there's certainly a lot of familiarity for sure between the two coaches.
Mark, going back after the game about the physicality, what else have you digested from that Clemson game about your team's performance, and what do you guys have to do to
So a bunch of things on the defensive end. I thought there were some really remarkable defensive efforts from our guys, especially like on the top of the scouting report, taking care of their best 2 players, their top 2 scorers. Both felt like we really did an unbelievable job on them. Felt like with their post play, I felt like we were really neutralizing their post play. It came at some cost now in some other facets of the game, so I was proud of those things. I was proud of how our guys responded in the second half on the glass, although we just got pummeled in the first half. So those are all things that I think are positives. I do think that we lost some of our consistency in kind of holding to our rules in the second half. I'd like to be more like tight, rock solid, like given, tied together. For example, our ball screen defense went away from us. It was like 3 straight possessions where, one, we bailed out of the down too early. Then the next possession, we miscommunicated on a 4-5 switch. It was kind of like it was a little bit complicated, but it had to be a force the ball screen 4-5 switch, and the next possession we were really soft on the right side of the floor and actually let him get all the way to the rim and shoot a layup. And so we kind of had a little cluster. There was a 10-0 run and a 10-2 run in the game. The 10-0 run was probably more of a shot selection issue that hurt us at the end of the first half, and then the 10-2 run was probably a little bit of a defensive breakdown situation where we just didn't. We just started taking on water a little bit. We had some leaks in the way we do it, so we'd like to be more solid offensively. We have a very, very heavy emphasis right now on our movement away from the ball. It's one of the things that sets us apart. It makes us different, but it also takes a ton of faith and a ton of energy and a ton of belief and then some understanding. And we're spectacular when we have great movement off the ball, really aggressive, definitive movement away from the ball, and we, I would probably give us a poor grade for that. Part of that's on me also. I gotta, there's always a nuanced vibe on how much play calling you do versus kind of letting yourself flow into the way you play, and so we're hoping to make huge strides on that side of the ball for sure. It's really important to us.
Huge travel week, late night at Clemson, now you go out West Coast. Anything you change differently to make sure the guys are ready?
Fortunately, we got veteran guys, so these guys will be ready. It's, I'm actually excited. We're going to be out in Seattle a little longer than normal, which I don't love, but it also is going to give us time to be together. One of the things is we didn't, since we play our MT at home. We don't kind of get that experience of being out on the road for 4 or 5 or 6 days, and so we'll have a couple days here where we can be locked in the hotel together, and I actually think it's gonna be really positive for us. I'm looking forward to it.
Are you surprised by the performance of SEC teams in the SEC Challenge?
No, just ours. Ours is the only one I'm surprised by. This league is really incredible. I don't know if we've seen a 14-2 ever. You guys would know that better than me. That's incredible. This league is insane right now. Like the dominance of the SEC in college basketball right now is just beyond measure. And I don't know, you guys crunch the numbers and go back and look historically, but man, that's just crazy. And it's awesome. Like it's beautiful. My experience as a player at Kentucky, this league was on fire, and it's the way it feels right now, and it just makes it so fun. I'm so happy for BBN just because we get to be in this environment right now and cut our teeth on this and really show who we are and be refined in the fire, right? And so it's going to be really fun.
Mark, going back to just going to Seattle again, do you kind of have an idea how many people might be there? And if you had to maybe call any favorites, get all these tickets plus accommodations?
I don't have an estimate on numbers that I'm going to give you. And I'm not going to tell you how much it's going to cost me.
So more requests though than tickets you've been able to.
Yeah, but just fun, just super fun, right? It's a blessing.
Mark, if Lamont can't go or if he's limited on Saturday, is Travis Perry going to get more of a look at that position, or are you looking at maybe another guy to run the offense at point guard?
Well, I have a lot of confidence in Travis Perry. He's a terrific player, and he's a really heady player, and he is immensely capable. So he definitely would be a viable option for sure.
Mark, with Colin, how much does everybody need to be reminded, you, him, fans, that it is kind of a long-term process with this ramp up, and how do you approach that as a mentor, as a coach, knowing how competitive he is and how much he wants to do?
Well, one, it's just hard. There's no way around it, right? But if you let these experiences turn you something that you're not already. It's the truth of the game, and I could say that about every single guy on our team. Like everybody is forging their way and kind of finding their way. And what's interesting, I talk to our guys about this all the time, is I have a very clear vision where each of these guys is going to end up. Like I think it's one of the things that I'm really blessed to have insight to. I just have I have a pretty good feel for like what guys can become. It's easy for me to see. What's less predictable is the pathway that you take to get there, right? And you know, I don't know you're going to meet a better human being than Colin Chandler, and I suspect that Colin Chandler is going to make massive contributions to this team this season. And so it's about getting better every day and being ready when the big opportunities present themselves, and he will be.
Jackson said that physicality was almost like a wake-up call in that first half on Tuesday. And, you know, I'm not saying that they're not tough, but is that part of like an early season growth process is getting tougher? I mean, they did better in the second half. First State was also pretty physical. Is that part of what you need to see out of your guys, like just getting tougher more physically?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's more of like being able to execute what we execute in that physical environment, if that makes sense, and that's just a learning process. It's is every time you step on the floor with kind of a new feel to what you do. All of our guys, you know, we don't have anybody that's returning to this play, right? And so for all of our guys, doing this together the way we do it is new. So even though we have veteran guys that are really experienced, that's a new process. And so every time you feel a different intensity or a different physicality or a different length or a different whatever, it can alter the way you do the new things that you're doing. So certainly in that sense, I don't think, you know, that's not the most physical game that any of these guys have played in. But it's, you know, doing it together and doing it, trying to play the way we're playing is there's a little bit of newness to that for sure.
To piggyback off that a little bit, you mentioned the communication. You may have had some breakdowns the other night. Did the atmosphere, maybe being the first time in that type of an atmosphere with this team, contribute to that?
Maybe a little bit, but mostly it's just. I think a lot of that is internal, and it's you know, you always have slippage. It's always a part of the game. We just had it, you know, the other night we had it some inopportune moments for sure. You know, we ended up with a little bit, you know, moments, some non-traditional lineups for the way we have been playing, just because of foul issues and fatigue issues and injury issues and other things. And but it's just that's just a matter of like becoming, you know, it's a matter of doing it right, you know, 83% of the time versus 87% of the time versus 92% of the time, right? It's just being locked in, consistent, and that's something that, you know, there is a little bit of a newness factor to that, but it's just like our standard is 100% of the time, and we didn't quite meet that standard, and that's not acceptable, and it shouldn't be understandable, but it is a part of the game that we have to get better at.
Mark, you know, Kobe obviously arrived with reputation as a great three-point shooter, and he's more and lived up to that so far. But what have you thought about the other areas of the game, how he plays?
With Kobe Bryant?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's come on, man. Talk about the best dude in the world. He's you know, it's pretty fun. So his you know, I don't even want to dive into this, but one of the things that we pay attention to is defensive leverage. Now, understand that like this is a full of holes, complicated metrics that's really variable, but he's a plus 0.11 on his defensive leverage, which is really that's a really impressive number actually, and so he's had some good impact on the game defensively. He's come up with from time to time he's come up with some really physical, demanding rebounds. He's able to bring a really special joy to our locker room and a looseness and a confidence to our lineup that's pretty special. He's a special player, man. He's got an unbelievable future in this game. He's already done so much, but he's gonna have a big time season for us.
You talked a lot about journey and growth of this team. What was the thing that you liked about seeing? Nobody likes to lose, but obviously it's the first time this group has lost together. What did you like to see in the resilience or the response that this group has shown so far since then?
Well, I liked it in the game. I liked us in the game. I mean, there's so many things we can do better in the game. You know, I shouldn't say this because B-Man's gonna kill me, but I'm not very filtered. I actually have more confidence in this team after the game than I did before, which is a terrible thing to say here. But I you know, I liked how our guys were willing to sell out to address the most important thing. And at halftime, the most glaring problem we had, we were down 10 on the glass. And a lot of times in this game, we give lip service to things that need to be addressed, and then you kind of go through and it just you don't really fix the problem because there's so many other things that you get distracted on, focused on, and I was really impressed with our guys that was a massive point of emphasis, and our guys remedied it. Right, they got back to even, which is hard to do, and we didn't play great. We didn't play really well on the offensive side of the ball. We didn't play well at all, but the guys, even in spite of all that, were like, okay, so this is the most important thing. Let's handle the most important thing. And when you handle the most important thing, it bodes well for you, right? When you can start there. And so I felt good about that. I felt good about the fact that, in a time when we weren't playing well, we didn't really have rhythm. We were kind of searching for ourselves. The guys pretty much stayed together, right? And I liked the response yesterday as we kind of cranked out the film, and we had a bunch of guys that were curious and eager and wanted to get better. Not a bunch of guys feeling sorry for themselves or upset or distracted. And if we can keep that, listen, seasons are hard, and that's why they're great. I mean, heaven forbid we ever have a season where nothing goes wrong, because it's going to be super boring, and it'll actually be a little bit, yeah. Well, the fan base would love it, but what really is special is when it's kind of when you answer. It's when you ring the bell, right? And so I think we have a locker room full of guys that are like that they can take on some adversity, and I think that they are, wins or losses, I think they're going to roll in the locker room the same way, just hungry to get better. And I think that bodes well for us throughout the course of this season, right? And you look at this league right now, this league is really special. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be really dynamic. And there's going to be some times when, BBN is like, he's the worst coach ever. And those are actually beautiful moments, because that's when you have a chance to ring the bell, right? And we have a team that's built to do it.
Hey Mark, can you talk about Father Bradley and what impact?
Yeah. I was really sad to hear about Father Bradley. I don't know if everybody operates the way that I do, but I kind of, when I think about people, when I think about character traits in life, I have people that are like, I can't really describe the character trait, but I'm just like, that's him. Like for Coach Pitino, like I can use a lot of words to describe the characters, but I'm like, that's Coach P, right? For Bill Kitely, a bigger than life human being that was really unique, and I could talk about a lot of things, and he would be like, if I had my own personal dictionary, then Coach Kitely's picture would be there. And when I think about somebody in this world that it was not about himself, like the defining person in my mind is Father Bradley. It was never about him, ever. That was my impression of him. It was never about him. He was here to serve and to love and to care for people, and it was never about him. And so, I think he's just if nothing else, what an incredible gift to give to me and everybody that was ever around him, to know what that looks like and what it feels like and what that real person is walking around, that always makes it about the people around him, not himself. A really special human being, and we miss him. And incredibly grateful for what he was to me as an individual and to everybody in BBN and this greater Kentucky community in the world.
Thanks, everybody.
Guys, have a great one.
Thanks.